I have two roles. I am market manager in Rambøll's Smart Mobility Division, an international division, and I'm an expert in cycling policy and promotion there. But I'm also chair of an organization called Cycling Embassy of Denmark that was founded 11 years ago, and is an organization of Danish cycling cities, private companies like Rambøll, and NGOs. And what we have in common is that we all work to promote cycling, and just we want, of course, better conditions for cycling in Denmark, but we also would like to export our know-how and help cities around the world have more people cycling. I don't identify as a cyclist. I'm just a person that uses my bicycle for transportation. There are many conferences around cycle where people say, yeah, I'm a cyclist myself. And I never do that. I just use my bicycle. It's not my identity to be a cyclist. I just really enjoy cycling for transportation because it's just super easy, smart, fast, healthy, and clean and green, and it just makes sense. And it's not like a statement. It's just, it makes my life really easy, and yeah, now I miss it because I'm not on my bike, and I have to walk just to walk to get some exercise because I don't have to go anywhere because of Corona. The bicycle is just, the perfect means of transportation for me to get around my city, to go to work, to go shopping. Even though I live on a hilly street, it's about having a bicycle that fit your needs. I dress for the destination, not the ride. So I bike in heels, I bike in dresses and skirts. Biking is in heels is just so much easier than walking in them. So it's just so simple. I don't own a car. So walking and cycling and public transport for me is what I do. As a Dane, we learn to walk, and then our parents teach us how to ride a bicycle. So, and they're just, as parents, we're just as proud when the child at age 2 or something, 4 maybe, gets on a bicycle. So it's been part of my life always. I've always biked to school. I always biked to my friends. It gave me, that feeling of independence. It took me everywhere, and I didn't depend on my parents. And I think that's one of the very good reasons why parents should help their children learn how to ride a bicycle and learn how to navigate in traffic, because it actually gives children an opportunity to have, that independence and frees up time for parents. And it teaches children that you don't need a car to go from A to B. So cycling has been part of my life always. So has being in a car. And I also had about 10 years of my life where I had a car. We lived a place where I actually ended up having 2 cars. But I moved back to the city about 10 years ago and have no car. And I never felt more free than without the car, because I parking, thinking about if you are having a glass of wine, all the money a car costs. For me, the bicycle, it's just so easy and simple, and it takes me everywhere. I think the car industry has sold us the idea that the car means that, you're a successful person, especially towards men. Being a successful man equals having a big car, and men and cars, there's a special love affair there. But so that is part in I think almost anywhere, part of the culture. But I think also, for instance, in Denmark, cycling is not something that is seen as you are poor. Actually, in the bigger cities, it is more likely to be well-educated people who are cycling, for instance, in Copenhagen and other bigger cities in Denmark. It's part of what we do. It's a means of transportation. It's fast. It's easy. And because a city like Copenhagen is built for cycling, it's also safe. In Denmark, it's not your identity to be a cyclist. You don't have to vote for a specific political party to be. It's not a statement. You don't have to be especially green. It's more common, and I think it's linked to the fact that we have kept on cycling, because, as you say, in all cities and different cultures, the bicycle has been part of it for 200 years almost. But we just didn't stop in Denmark and the Netherlands to the same extent that other societies did after World War II, and kind of the cars became the center of our city planning. Alongside planning for cars, Denmark and the Netherlands still continued to include cycling planning in cities. And I think it's just meant that it never really went away. So I think, and Denmark and the Netherlands don't have a car industry, for instance, could also have some impact on that, because it's clear that the car industry has definitely impacted the way we see cars and the way we move around cities, definitely. In Denmark, we have a cycling embassy, and the purpose is to promote cycling internationally, and also share the know-how that we have in Denmark after like 100 years of cycling in Denmark. We would really like to share that know-how and help other cities have more people cycling. The more internal purpose in Denmark is to make sure that cycling develops continuously also in Denmark, because we cannot, rest on the level we're at now. We still need to grow and develop, because Danes also drive cars and constantly we need to make sure that people choose the bicycle, especially for the shorter trips, to make sure that our cities are not congested, and that people's health improve, and all the benefits that cycling offers the individual as well as the cities. Cycling offers many benefits, both for the individual and for the city itself. For the individual, it's of course physical exercise. That's one of the benefits. As humans, we are built to move, and in societies nowadays, we just simply sit still all the time. And sitting has become the new smoking. It's making us sick. And so that's one option. By having cycling as transportation in your daily life, you get that exercise that you need to stay fit and healthy. And then there's also mental health. A lot of research has shown that people who bike regularly actually also are happier, but also report sleeping better at night, just feel better, because that bike trip from work, people talk about how you kind of have this mental cleaning on your way home, you don't have that in the same way commuting home from work by car, because being in a car in a city can be very stressful. So you just add stress. So the mental health and the physical health is very important for the individual. And as for cities, cars take up, or bikes take up less space than cars. So it's much more effective when it comes to transport and mobility. You can simply get more people through the streets and through the city, and have more people come and move around the city. Also, bicycle parking takes up less space than car parking. And then there is, so it's also a matter of, it's congestion, but it's also the quality of the space in cities. Space in cities is very limited, and we need to, or at least it's a political choice whether or not that space should be used to store cars, parking, or it should be used more effectively, and maybe also with more quality that makes living in cities better and more interesting, simply because there's space to have other activities, to linger, to have events or have fun and cafes, and just really use the space for people and activities for people instead of as storage for cars. Less CO2 than cars, but also when it comes to air quality, the pollution in air quality also is very unhealthy for people, and noise also something that really affects people's health. And again, the bicycle is green and clean and makes no noise. So it just kind of ticks all the boxes as a tool for more sustainable and more livable and more healthier cities. We did recently in Rambøll where we looked at some car data, and there are, of course, distances around Copenhagen where the bicycle is as fast or faster at specific times of day. But you could also say that related to time is that the bicycle is a mode where if you check travel time, you can be quite sure that the travel time will be what is predicted in your the Google app or whatever navigation app you're using. You cannot, for this, with the car, be sure, or with public transportation. So there is really a factor of being. It can be very precise in how much time it takes. So you can plan around that and be quite sure that you get there on that time. I've had the pleasure of going to Ljubljana specifically 5 or 7 times, and I really enjoy Ljubljana. I love the fact how the city center is car free and how walking plays a huge part. But I was actually also impressed by the cycling infrastructure. There's definitely still room for improvement. But compared to other cities, there was segregated cycle paths available for cyclists. But it is a matter of prioritizing, again, the space and creating that room and having quality in the infrastructure for cyclists. Definitely Ljubljana is a city where you have a really good starting point, for getting fast improvements if there is political will and budget to do so, because there's already a good level, at least when I haven't been there a couple of years, but what I've seen so far, it was very interesting. But of course, there are, again, like there is in Denmark, there are places where it's it's really good, and other places where you feel unsafe and it's challenging. And it's making sure that there's a coherent network where you can feel safe everywhere. And basically that you can send a child of 12, 13 out on your own. The Danish cities and many Dutch cities, but besides those obvious ones, I think that we are seeing now, and COVID has kind of boosted that cities around the world are really looking to cycling and have improved the conditions. It may be pop-up bike lanes, and we don't know if they're temporary or if they will stay and be improved to be more permanent. But there are many good, I would say Sevilla and Barcelona in Spain have done a fantastic job, really fast improving, really building a network. Also, a city like New York managed to quite rapidly and by doing trials and trying out different options, roll out better cycling facilities. Of course, it's still small numbers when we're looking at modal shift, but still they really, the results were fast, because there is this, we want improvements fast, but we also want quality in the work. So it's about finding that balance of doing it good and doing it fast. And I think COVID has shown us that you can try out things with temporary means and then figure out if it works or if it needs to be adjusted, and then over time put into redesign to make it permanent. We're also seeing it in Germany, in Berlin. They really have rolled out also pop-up infrastructure here the last year. Paris, really many good examples. But I at least before I would also mention Ljubljana as an example of how kind of Danish style cycling design can be integrated into city planning and be part of the new way of designing streets. There is potential in all cities. It's a matter of political will, and that decision makers allocate budgets and have planners that know best practice, and that there is this will to do it. I think we've seen now that build it and they will come is just so true. And it's been re-emphasized here during COVID in cities around the world. And it is a process. And I sometimes compare cycling or car driving more specifically with smoking, that it took time also with smoking. We realized it wasn't good for us. And then over time, we did campaigns for people to stop smoking, and we talked about it, and slowly our mindset around smoking changed. And then came the harder measures, banning smoking in public buildings and indoor, and now also in many places, specific places outdoors. And it completely changed the way we see cycling. And I think we will see the same journey with car driving. especially in cities. There's nothing wrong with cars. It's just the mix of cars and cities that, is a problem, because there is a limited amount of space, and we need effective mobility to have people move around. And we have actually been so effective in getting cars into our cities, that we now have so many that we're stuck in traffic. So we need to do something. We need to make improvements. And I think we're in the journey of also in our mindsets change the position of the car, at least within cities. It's hard to persuade or convince people why they should bike, because cycling and the benefits, it's actually something you need to experience in your own body, that you feel better, how you experience a city in a completely different way, how you mentally, this is good for you, how you just, have a completely different experience from taking a trip by bike or in a car. It's a very different experience, how you can connect better with your city and with people around you. So that I think you need to experience it and try it to get it. If you have a network or places where it's safe to ride a bicycle, that's kind of the backbone. It needs to be safe. But then also to make sure that different types of bikes are available for people to try out. It can be cargo bikes, or it can be e-bikes, or it can be small balance bikes for kids. At least in Denmark, we see that if people get to try it out, and actually also maybe more than 10 minutes or a day, but over a little longer period of time, actually experience on their own bodies and in their own minds how this, is good for them and changes, then it's more likely that people then maybe invest in their own bicycle, or, so having facilities where it's possible to try it out and help people figure out what could work for me, for the needs I have. Because if it's only racing bikes that are available, it doesn't, that fits a very specific need. And we need to have a more versatile selection of bikes available, so you can choose what fits you. You can choose to say, okay, I'll bike to work when the sun's shining. You don't have to bike when it's raining. But then when it becomes a habit, you don't care anymore whether or not it's raining or not, because you just, dress for it. And so I think simply trying it out, because it's hard to persuade or convince people why they should bike, because cycling and the benefits, it's actually something you need to experience. It just feels really stupid when you, as a cyclist, everything suddenly just stops. And it's like, what did they think? I have to continue from this point, and now it's just really dangerous, and I don't know where to be here. So, and they would never, planners would never do that with car infrastructure or public transport. It never just ends somewhere. So we really need to, I think it's about the status of cycling needs to be higher. It shouldn't be seen as something you can just kind of, we'll just do something. We'll do a little bit here and then it's done, because it isn't. And then people won't use it. And when it's different solutions in different streets, it's also, you need it to be coherent, and as a user that you automatically know how the design works for you and where to place yourself. If one street is this version and the next street it's that, and you have to be there and then you have to go there, it's dangerous when it's confusing, and you have to be able to basically explain to a child how to do it. It should be that simple. You could definitely see whether or not the cycling infrastructure was made by people who cycle themselves. Definitely. And I would say that's also why we in the Cycling Embassy of Denmark offer our expert planners to, assist cities where their planners have not had training in doing cycling infrastructure, because it's not like planning for a small car. It's a different type of infrastructure, because cyclists have different needs than car drivers, and you need to know how to plan for cycling. Definitely. And that's also why we're offering our services, because many cities are struggling with the fact that their planners and designers are not trained and may not have the needed skills or experience with cycling. So definitely, it should be part of being educated as a traffic planner and an engineer, or at least you could take courses or something, because it is a big problem. And then of course you need to include people who knows the challenges and the concerns, and